Hello, and welcome to the spiritual sanctum of light, a place where you can come and share your spiritual thoughts in discussion and exploration. And we are going to explore a verse from J.J. Hurtak's The Book of Knowledge, The Keys of Enoch. And we are looking at chapter 108, verse 32, where he writes, now we're not reading the entire verse here, we're reading the important parts of it. He writes that the key solution is the understanding of how terrestrial and solar movement are tied together, which connects with Kima, the cradle from which our embryonic cycles are calculated. So the important discovery is understanding the relationship between form and spirit, or tangible and the intangible. And what I mean by this, and we could call this the spirit and the body, however, I look at it differently. I look at it with us in this existence and how we can relate to those other existences that are not in this particular realm, or I should say in a form that we readily recognize. I am talking about what we sometimes call spirits, or I call intelligences, but they are otherworldly beings. So we have been presenting these as extreme points, meaning the tangible and the intangible. We've been presenting them as extreme points and the relationship between them. We've got what we call the divine here, and we've got us here, and how they reach towards each other. And as they reach towards each other, this is represented by the Star of David. And you have this area here where the two meet. Now, there is also a quote, and I believe it is from Loveland in one of his publishings, but it could be Tiffany as well. But the quote is that we are intended to walk in both the physical and the spiritual realms, meaning that we are intended to walk in a more fuller aspect of nature, because nature, while we are under the impression it begins here, nature begins elsewhere. Where? I don't know. It's like pointing at a storm and the conditions that go into forming the storm, and pointing and saying, yes, right here is where this storm begins and right here is where it ends. You really can't. You make educated guesses. So I don't know when nature came to be, only that nature simply is, and that nature not only permeates all of what we recognize in this reality, but all realities, internal realities, the realities experienced by different people, the realities experienced by those otherworldly beings. This is the relationship that we are referring to. And we have to consider these 2 points, the what we call the divine or the spiritual and form, that these 2 points are moving in conjunction. They are moving at the same time as we move up towards what we call the divine. The divine is also moving towards what we call form. There is growth in nature and there is decay in nature. And it is when the two meet that we have the optimal experience, in a manner of speaking. These are not separate instances of movement. The divine does not first move down to us and then we reach up to the divine. It does not work that way. They move in tandem. They move in tandem. We use this idea of ebb and flow, of waves, to demonstrate how this happens. But you have to understand, while the waves appear to push out and then flow back, that is an appearance. It is the rhythm that they create. It is how nature works. And yes, it may appear that you have the two coming this way. Well, yes, they do move this way, but in conjunction. In conjunction. It's like pulses, is how it is. But this demonstration becomes flawed with understanding because, as I said, the movement is in tandem, simultaneous. Each one is a Star of David reaching up for what they believe to be the divine, and what they believe to be the divine is also reaching down, extending a hand, seeking to build a home within you. These movements are not separate, but are representations of simplicity because they occur simultaneously. They permeate each other. Think of it like this. As a probability wave of a potential event reaches a crescendo, it's like the storm. As the conditions for the storm reach that perfect mixture, that perfect blending, that crescendo, it comes closer to shifting from the potential of becoming a storm to actually being a storm. Events occur in that same fashion. All the conditions that go into creating an event converge upon each other until they reach a crescendo, an orgasm, if you will. And from that, the event transitions from a potential to a concrete or a manifestation. Now consider not one probability wave, but many probability waves moving towards a crescendo. Related variables shifting for each wave, which is not separate one from another, but is a single wave. And each condition that does not merge with this falls away. And other conditions take its place. It's a single wave that is continually adjusting. And the difficulty here is that there is not one probability that manifests or becomes the result of your actions. We would like to think that way, but it is the varying aspects of the action or actions that initiate potential possibilities. And as they converge and shift from the unmanifested into the manifested, then all of these probabilities begin to occur. But it's not just one result from one causation. It is many causations that create that transition into many results. Some of those results we cannot even imagine happening. This is why you may say, in response to someone accusing you of doing something, and you say, but that was not my intention. Your intention was what you focused on, but what you focused on created a rippling effect, a variety of effects that moved out from it. Every effect has a cause. However, every cause creates a variety of effects. And those effects, plural, become causations, plural, which create more effects. You see what I'm getting at? This is the idea behind what you reap, so you sow. Or, I'm sorry. This is the idea behind what you sow, so shall you reap. You do not know what it is that you may be reaping, because within the seeds are other seeds. You may have seeds for tomatoes, but you don't know what those tomatoes will be like. Some will be large, some will be small, some will be medium, some will taste ever so sweet, some may taste bitter, some may be bland, but all of that can come from one seed. Kima is represented by Pleiades, and we've talked about this in previous presentations. Pleiades is the manifestation, it is the beginning, it is the birth of something new. Only it is not a new wave. The wave appears to build anew to become something new, but it is the same wave entering into a different stage. It is the causation becoming, as it transitions from potentiality or the unmanifested into the manifest, the effect, and then that wave bottoms out, and then it begins to build again until again it reaches a crescendo, a point to where all that accumulated from that effect becomes manifested and initiates another effect. This is the ebb and flow, the back and forth. It creates a crescendo, and then that crescendo drops. And then it builds again. So we get this line. The heartbeat makes this line too. Rhythm. Rhythm. Another perspective could be that the soul is released from the body and is then born anew. In other words, it is released from the body and it becomes renewed. Of course, it can also be renewed in another body. Same soul, different body. A continuation, but not a continuation. This is the relationship between form and spirit, between tangibility and the untangible. This is the relationship. One becomes the other, which becomes the former, which again it's that flow, ebb and flow. I hope this was of some use to you, expanding your thoughts as you thread together these presentations on based on J.J. Hurtak's Book of Knowledge, Keys of Enoch. We don't go through every verse, just the ones that stand out to me. But this may give you a foundation to work from, because every interpretation is different. Mine is not the only interpretation of what this book could mean. There are others out there who have read this book and have their own understanding of it. Are any of them wrong? No. Are any of them right? No. They are merely perspectives of the whole. And I want to thank you for stopping by. If you enjoyed this, subscribe, like the video. Better yet, visit us through Zoom Sunday mornings Eastern Time at 10 o'clock. You can find links at our website, sanctumoflight.org. There are links there that will take you to Zoom to log on. There are also directions, links that will take you to directions, I should say, if you are in the Michiana area. We are right around the border of Michigan and Indiana, southwest Michigan and northwest Indiana. Thank you again, and may your day be filled with joy.